Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Dog Watch Cigar Radio, herfing around the globe with you on Friday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, of course. We're all here. We wish you were here, too, but you could be, you could be in the chat room up on cigarmedia.tv/live. You can see the show live up there. You can see us live on live stream. You can see us live on YouTube. You can see us live on our website, and you can join the chat room on our website as well. Now, joining me this evening, we've got a big cast. We've got a lot of stuff to do, so sit back, relax. It could be a long show. But joining me, of course, as usual, is His Eminence, the master technician of Cigar Radio, Mr. Dale Roush.
Hey, thank you, Bob. I feel insignificant tonight, though, compared to our Cigar of the Week, which I know we'll get to in a minute, but it makes me feel small.
I don't know how to take that. I wonder about that. But we'll see what everybody else thinks when we get there. Also joining us tonight is the one, the only, the master pontificator himself, Mr. Craig Schneider.
Well, hello, gentlemen. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I can confirm tonight will be a long show because I am participating.
Hey, welcome, Craig. Welcome.
Now, also joining us, because, well, I'm going to introduce him in just a second here because I want to talk about what we have as the Cigar of the Week this week, brought to you by Tranquilo CIgars right here in Melbourne, Florida. It is the Panacea Pecemaker, and this is the cigar that Dale was referring to. But before I overstep my bounds and tell you wrong things about it, I'm going to introduce Mr. Ron Barker of CigarValant.com. Also, the Panacea rep, the guy who got us these cigars, really, in essence. And so, Ron, welcome to the show.
Hey, Bob. Hey, Dale. Hey, Dale, I'm here to prove that size matters.
All right.
So, yeah, the Panacea Pecemaker, yeah, 7 inches of Dominican glory.
7, and it's not the 7 inches that makes me feel so insignificant. It's the 60 ring gauge.
Dale, you're not making this any easier on yourself, buddy.
I'm just seeing how long Bob can hold out before he comes up with something he's got to say.
Well, I'm just waiting for what you come up with next, Dale.
I have a gun pointed at my head, so I have to be very careful what I say.
This is a heck of a cigar, Ron. Yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah.
Well, the 760 is a cigar that actually the red Habano was the third cigar in the Panacea line. I'm sure that Paul Bush has relayed the story where he came out with the first the Black Natural, the Black Maduro, and ultimately looking for a stronger, bigger, fuller cigar. Added Habano as a binder to the cigar, the base foundation that we use for all of our cigars, the Dominican and Nicaraguan filler, and with that as a foundation, added the flavor, added the size, and the 760 was something that he added a little bit later. 7 inches, 60 ring gauge. The Grande line, all of our Grande lines are 60 ring gauge cigars, where our classic lines are more traditional sizes. One of the things that I did, I represent Panacea here in the Mid-Atlantic, so I'm working primarily in Virginia, establishing that as the initial marketplace. I've done some additional stores up in Maryland and also have the opportunity to move into North Carolina over time. But one of the things that I did last spring was to actually develop a relationship with the Wounded Warrior Trust, who did a special event on Memorial Day. So what we did was put together a special banded edition of the 760 Pecemaker. It's a cigar, by the way, that we had shipped overseas. We have a really nice, it's actually an ammunition crate, it looks like, with 160 cigars that we've shipped to a number of units in Afghanistan and Iraq over time. But
why not 760?
Good question. Because I can't carry that. This one works nicely in the Coolador. So I took a couple of those and a number of cigars down to the Wounded Warrior Trust. Had a great showing, but and it was very well received. I do have some of those left, which accounts for actually part of the reason behind the deal today. Number one, partly we want to give everybody a chance to taste these to see what they're like. But the other thing is I got a gang of them. So my overstock, and Craig, you know all about this, right? You with all of your what did you call your cigar, Craig?
Me? Boy, I don't know. You've stumped me. I don't know. Have I called it anything?
The one that
you had made.
Yeah, the one that you had made.
Oh, the Chagringo.
The Chagringo. Okay, so this is the Ron Barker equivalent of the Chagringo. I've got actually I call it my closet door now. I've turned my pantry here at the Palace of Earthly Delights into a humidor. So at any rate, today the deal is going to be that the cigars, which are normally $12 cigars, are $10 for a single. I've got a buy four get one free deal, so for $40 you get 5 cigars, or you can get a 20 cigar bundle for $150 and a 40 cigar box for $300. And the other part of that is that I've got 25 of those that are signed by Paul Bush, president of Panacea. And as an added bonus, just for the show, is that for those of us that are listening, if you enter the coupon code DOGWATCH, there's an additional $10 off of all of that, and I pay the shipping on all of these, domestic shipping.
Such a deal. Good job.
Yeah. I mean, I'm basically giving them to you for something more than free.
Now, Ron, you also do a lot of work with wine and cigar pairings. Do you have any recommendations to go with the Panacea 760 from your vast wine collection we can see in your photo there?
Well, one of the things, actually, let me see if I can pop one of these up for you. Here is actually, this is the wine that I'm going to be drinking this evening. So I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to be drinking the Holly Grove 2009 Petit Verdot. Petit Verdot is a grape that I hadn't been introduced to until I got here to Virginia. It seems to be somewhat popular with the wine growers here. So it's a red grape that I haven't seen other than here. I think it's expanding to other places. But it's a big, full-flavored red wine grape, big, bold flavors, even bigger than a Zinfandel. So big and dry, lots of flavor, and this. This one in particular, lots of blackberry, a little bit of vanilla, and just a hint of molasses. So this is a great cigar pairing with this one. I like this one a lot. So anyway, we're drinking the Holly Grove Petit Verdot for this evening. It also pairs up very nicely with most big Cabernets. The thing that I try to differentiate, where this cigar is bigger, fuller, bigger bodied, it takes a big red wine to balance the flavors of this cigar. Some of the lighter red wines, for example, here in Virginia, we get a lot of Cab Francs, Chambourcin. Those tend to be a little bit lighter and a little earthier in flavor. That would be a better pairing with our Black Maduro, for example. But in this case, the Cabernet Sauvignons and the Petit Verdot is a prime example of a great match with this one.
Well, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I am struck by two things immediately. One, I think that our very smooth-voiced guest might have the absolute perfect radio voice that's ever been on this show.
I agree.
and secondly, and perhaps more appropriate to what we're discussing here, I can't tell you how much I appreciate someone who can offer up some solid tips for pairing wine with cigars. I have a decent amount of success pairing sparklers with cigars, but man, I think I've struck out every single time I've tried to pair a red with a nice ballsy smoke. So I'm gonna take notes, I think, here actually. Man, oh man, this is gold words you're sharing with us tonight. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Just to give you an idea, here, all of these are available, by the way, on my website. But for example, here's another one of our pairings that we do. This is, in this case, it's a little bit unusual because it is a Cab Franc, This is a winery called Potomac Point, and Bob, as you'll recall, we did an interview with Simona Verdesi, who was the winemaker at Potomac Point. But their Cab Franc is somewhat different in that Cab Francs, as a general rule, are a lighter bodied wine, and don't necessarily have the big full flavors. They would tend to be overpowered by something as big as the Red Habano. But in this case, Simona is Sicilian and likes those big red Sicilian wines, and so in this case, the Cab Franc is very big. It's got a really nice tannic finish, and again a little bit of that vanilla flavor that seems to be, I think, an indicator of a wine that may pair very nicely with a cigar like this. But in this case, the Cab Franc, which typically pairs with our black, is a great pairing again with the Red Habano. And this, by the way, just to show you, I'm just going to scroll through this quickly. But this is a weekly email blast that I do where I highlight a variety of things. In this case, it was highlighting the pairings of Potomac Point, and again, back to the Cab Franc.
Well, now you got to tell them where they can go to find all this information and sign up for those great emails.
The website is cigarvolant.com. This is, I was going to say this is what that looks like. Let's see if I can figure out where that was. Anyway, this is, there we go. So this is my,
so Cigar Volant, VOLANTE.
Cigarvolant.com, that's correct.
And you got, if people are up in the Virginia area, you do the Virginia Cigar and Wine Trail, or is it just the Virginia Wine Trail?
It's the Virginia Wine and Cigar Trail. So it was something we actually started up in May. As part of what I've been doing with this, and Craig, to your point, I drank a lot of wine, and I was going to some festivals to get the cigar out in front of people. There's another story that I'll relate in regards to that, but one of the things that I was finding is that the people that I was seeing at these festivals weren't big cigar smokers, and so this was a way of finding out what their flavor profile was, and from that then to recommend a cigar. And as we started doing that, realized that there was a real opportunity. So in May, we started the Virginia Wine and Cigar Trail. I had 5 wineries initially that were interested in participating. So we did individual wine and cigar pairings where we paired each of the wines in their winery with our cigars. We have cigars that pair with white wines, cigars that pair with lighter and fuller-bodied red wines, and over time now that's grown to 8 wineries. We've just added 3 more, and as a result of that, I'm doing about 30 festivals this year. The vast majority of those are wine festivals.
Wow.
We're doing Celtic festivals. Last weekend was the Pirates and Wenches Fantasy Weekend. That was fun.
Not only does he have the perfect cigar voice, but he's got the perfect job.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. Yeah, I spend my weekends with cigars, wine, and wenches.
Wow, it just keeps getting better and better.
It is better, yeah. So anyway, we've got 8 wineries in the cigar, Virginia Wine and Cigar Trail.
I've always had a problem with that name, by the way.
Yeah, it doesn't roll very easily, but I'm not sure, if you can come up with something catchier, as nice as your website looks, you ought to be able to come up with something catchy that I can use. So anyway, we're
hey, Scott.
We do have 8 wineries, and in a month, on the 15th of September, we're going to be doing the Virginia Wine Festival, which is one of 4 or 5 really big wine festivals in the state. Probably a total of 50 or 60,000 people, and we'll probably be doing something in the neighborhood of 50 or 60 boxes of cigars during that period.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Man, I would love to be able to have that connection and that sort of occurrence out here. I think that that would be something that'd be great.
I'm
I'm sorry?
It's great fun, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
And the thing that's happening as a result of this is that, as an emissary for cigar smokers, I'm finding that we're introducing cigar smoking to an entirely different group of people now.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there's a certain image that's associated with the cigar smoker, you know, and part of what I'm seeing now as I introduce this to women, for example, that like a nice full Chardonnay, and I can pair that up with our Black Natural, and they can understand what the flavor of a cigar is, why it's different than smoking a cigarette, and why the flavors of the cigar, in fact, enhance the flavor of the wine. You know, all of those things are just building more cigar smokers, which I think is, you know, that's certainly one of my missions, as well as to sell a Panacea or two.
Oh, absolutely, and it's beneficial to all of us if we can kind of expand that collective group, that collective appreciation of cigars. I mean, not to take this in a political direction, but the more people who understand that this is about an enjoyment factor done responsibly by adults, the better. That benefits all of us for all aspects of this hobby or this lifestyle, really.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the byline that I use for the company is promoting civilized indulgence.
Perfect. Huh. Well, that's spectacular. I don't know. You have a fan in Chicago if you ever want to expand this nationally.
There you go.
Yeah, take it. Yeah, I'm sure we can figure something out. There's some wineries up there. I'm sure we can work with it. It's now we're talking. Actually, we've got a store. Paul has been working with a local retailer in Pennsylvania that is picking up the model. We've got. I did something new at a festival about 3 months ago. Added, I call it the magic decoder ring, but in effect, it's a list of our blends with the things that they pair with. So the Black Natural pairs with a big Chardonnay. The Black Maduro pairs with Cab Francs with Pinot Noirs, and it also pairs with nice brown ales. And so through the line of cigars, then I have a visual that then allows people to look at the cigar and pretty quickly determine what cigar would pair with the kinds of things that they like to drink. And it's really interesting how those things correlate very positively. And so people that are not comfortable with smoking cigars don't really have to get into the vernacular. They don't have to go through what I find is an uncomfortable situation going into a cigar store where people are speaking an entirely different language than what they're used to, and to be able to introduce themselves to the hobby. And then, you know, one of the things that I do, I talk about Cigar 101 or Cigar and Wine Pairing 101, and I teach people how to cut the cigar and how to light it and how to smoke the cigar and the difference between smoking a cigarette and smoking a cigar. And it's amazing how many of those people have been looking for that kind of entry level or introduction to the hobby. It really is very gratifying.
Now, is there some way that people can get some of these Virginia wines without living in Virginia?
There's a site in Florida, and actually, Bob, I think you've taken advantage of some of this with some of our San Souci wines. We did an interview early on with Paul Anktil, the winemaker of San Souci, and he has a location in Florida that is shipping the wines. I believe that they're available online, and you caught me a little bit unawares.
I think if people will just search for San Souci Winery and go to their purchasing thing, they'll see where they come from, and they can kind of go from there. Because I didn't bring it up either. Sorry about that.
Wine and Cigar Trail, my Virginia, and actually you can get through Cigar Volant. You can get to the Wine and Cigar Trail, which is the easiest way I think to get there. So go to cigarvolant.com. There's a link to the Virginia Wine and Cigar Trail that has all of the wineries there, including a list of all of their websites. Some of them have online purchases, and some of them have links to other places where you can purchase the wines. And that's the best way to start it, at least with the wines that I've done the pairings with.
Okay, great. Well, we thank you for being with us and speaking so eloquently on the subject of wine and cigars, and especially this Panacea 760. But I think we're going to have to move on and get my other two partners here to talk a little bit about this cigar as well.
I'm just going to let Ron talk all night.
Right? I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it.
So we're going to take just a short break here, and I got to try to get Scott Hicks up on the screen. So everybody out there, stand by. I'm going to stop the recording. We'll stay live while we do a little bit of technical work here, and Dale and Craig can start assembling their notes on talking about this Panacea 760. Hey, welcome back to Dogwatch Cigar Radio, everybody. Bob McDuffie here with Dale Roush, Craig Schneider, and you just heard from Ron Barker about this Panacea 7x60 we're smoking here tonight. And
Pecemaker.
Hey, Panacea is one of my favorite cigar brands of all time. I started smoking those a couple of years ago, and I tell you what, the black, the red, the green, I haven't had the white yet, but they're all fantastic.
Now that voice, ladies and gentlemen, is our next guest on the show, and that is Scott Hicks from Rogue Ashtray. We met Scott over at IPCPR this year, and a couple of things. We fell in love with his ashtrays. We bought one, brought it home, have one here. I know Kip from the Cigar Me also bought one. But we wanted to get Scott on the show to talk about Rogue Ashtray and a little bit of his journey to create these, because they're really pretty special. So, Scott, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This is my first live interview, and it's pretty exciting. We had a lot of buzz in the industry. People are starting to talk about what I'm doing, and it's been a lot of personal pride and hard work put into it, so I'm excited to share it with the world.
Well, it looks like great stuff, Scott, and I'm really excited. I've been seeing posts on Facebook and Google Plus and Twitter and all over the place about your ashtrays, so really looking forward to having you describe how it came to be and how you make them and what it's all about.
Well, originally it started out with frustration. If a lot of people don't know, but I'm a disabled veteran. I was in the Army and suffered a series of injuries that broke my back, my knee, shoulder, caused me post-traumatic stress disorder, amongst other things. So once I finally was able to go back to school and try and retrain, I was in school and trying to get through some of the basics, like math. And I used to be really, really good at math whenever I was in college, or in high school, I mean. And now with my memory issues, they're so messed up that I couldn't retain the formulas for 2 days. I'd learn it one day, I'd have it down, and then 2 days later I'd go back and I just could not retain it at all. And so it was really frustrating. And I got so fed up with it that I said, you know what, forget it. I'm going to go have fun. I'm going to play. And that led me to a term where I took sculpture, I took ceramics, I took metalsmithing, jewelry making, and acting. All fun classes. I figured if nothing else, I'd go out having had a fun time. And through that, in the sculpture class, I learned how to make molds and forms and different types of sculpture. I actually made a Liga Privada T52 art piece. It's called a bas-relief, made out of cotton fibers, and it's a three-dimensional piece of art. And it was really cool and got recognition from Drew Estate. They put it up on their blog, and that was kind of neat. But then in the ceramics class, the first day I walked in and I looked at the guy who was teaching, and I said, by the way, the only thing I'm going to do the entire time I'm here is make cigar ashtrays. And he just kind of laughed at me.
Well, a lot of people take ashtrays for granted. I mean, we think about an ashtray is just a place to knock the ash off our cigar. But really, especially for cigar smokers, ashtrays are a piece of furniture there because we have them around all over the place. So how they look and how they reflect us becomes very important.
Well, ashtrays, if you go back to the 1940s, 30s, 50s, they were, a lot of them glass, and they were pressed pieces of art. People made dies, and they used to heat the glass up and press them into the dies, and some of them were crystal. They had different stands, and They really were an art form, and that's kind of been lost for the most part. A lot of the ashtrays that are around today are what are called pour molded, which basically they come up with a form and they pour liquid clay into the form and let it sit there for about an hour, and then they pour the clay back out, and it leaves behind this form. And anybody that's ever had one of those, while they're inexpensive and functional, if you tap them against a counter, I saw a guy while we were actually at IPCPR, he went to dump the ashes out of the ashtray, and it was one of those mass-produced ones, the big square ones that are real hollow inside, and he accidentally tapped it against the counter, just barely, and a whole corner knocked off of the thing because it's hollow, you know, and it doesn't have hardly any mass to it. But that's what's mass-produced out there. That's what's available to the manufacturers for buying in large quantities. Made in China, you know, that's what's out there. But I kind of like the concept of the way that they used to do it back in the 30s and the 40s, and the glass was really cool, but I didn't have access to that. So ceramics was really my format to create something cool again.
So you were in a ceramics class, you were making these ashtrays, and then you came up with a new idea when it came to how you were going to make these, because you got interested in putting different kinds of logos and designs in the bottom of it. Is that right?
Yeah, it started off, I used to be into building hot rods and motorcycles and that kind of stuff. I was under the tutelage of some great master mechanics when I was younger. And so I had gone through different processes of paints and masking and that kind of stuff. And I wanted to put flames in my ashtray. I wanted to do something where it was me, you know, because I'm all about rat rods and flames and motorcycles and that kind of stuff. And so I actually started out by putting down some pieces of masking tape and cutting it out. And then using that as a background to spray glazes over the top, peeled all that out, and then I have a special type of firing process that anything that's not glazed ends up turning black. And so it left behind these silhouette of flames. And my teacher looked at that, and he had been a potter for 33 years. He had been in the ceramics industry for a long time. And he just looked at me and he said, "How did you do that?" And I showed him what I did, and he said, "I've never seen that before. That's amazing." And he said, "You know, you really ought to try and develop that a little bit more." And then I turned to my buddy that had a t-shirt shop, and he makes vinyl cut decals and stuff for making the shirt screens and that kind of stuff. And I said, "Hey, man," I said, "cut me a couple of stickers that look like this, you know, just vinyl cut stickers." And so then I used those as the mask instead of masking tape that was hand cut. And I got real crisp, clean lines and got what I wanted put down on it. And my teacher saw it again, and he goes, "Okay, now that looks even better. How'd you do that?" And I explained it to him, and he said, "Scott, you've got a business here. You just don't know it yet." And I happen to know a lot of people in the industry, not well, just from talking to people online a lot, being interested in their cigars, and, you know, just word of mouth back and forth, talking to different people. They saw it. After I had a couple of ashtrays on my Facebook page, I had gotten a phone call from Carlos Fuente. He actually called me up just to encourage me. And at first I thought it was a joke because he said he wanted to talk to me. And I was like, why would he want to talk to me? You know, I'm just this dude in Grants Pass, Oregon, you know. And the funny thing was, the first time he tried to call me, it didn't end up happening. I sat there waiting for an hour and a half for his phone call, and he never called, and it turned out something had happened at the factory. So it was another day before I got to talk to him, and he just told me, he said, "Scott, your artwork is beautiful, and it's unique, and there's a place for you in this industry, and I want you to know that if you go for this and you can make this, you know, you can reproduce this more than once, there's a place for you, and you need to go after it." And to me, you know, Carlito's like the godfather of cigars. You know, he's a guy that has been there and done that and seen it all. And for him to call me from his factory to take time out of his day, as busy it is, you know, that was just huge. I was blown away that he would take that time to call me. So it was definitely turning point in what I was doing, because it changed possibility into reality.
Now, do you have one of the ashtrays there that you can show us while we talk about this?
Yeah, I got a couple. This was a sample that I made for a company. It was called Hickory Cigar Club. You can see how it's embedded in there, and I can put it on different parts. I can put it pretty much wherever I want. So if people want things up on the rim or wherever, that I can do that. That's one that was a green glaze, and then let me pull this other one out here. This is one that somebody was nice enough to drop on concrete for me, and so it got broken, but I sold all the other ones I had on hand. You can see the copper in this glaze, and the unique thing about this particular glaze, it's called oil slick, and every time it's fired, it comes out looking different. Every time it's fired, it has an organic nature to it where it changes, and sometimes it'll come out with purples, sometimes it'll come out with copper, sometimes it'll come out with chromes. I mean, it's really, really unique what it does, and it's all minute changes in temperature, minute changes in how fast it goes up and down in temperature, minute changes in what's used in what's called a reduction process. And so, you try and tell people, well, I don't know what it's going to look like until it's done. All I can tell you is that your logo is going to be in it. And some people are like, oh, that's really cool and excited about it. And other people are like, but I want that particular glaze right there. And I'm like, they're all the same. And, you saw them at the show, 10 different ashtrays, all the same glaze, and they look like 10 different glazes.
Yeah, so there's really no way to predict what they're going to come out like. Now, how can people? I don't want to dislodge your story. There's still more to tell in your story here. In fact, here's one that we got from you.
Yep, that's my new top hat skull. That was one that I created just before IPCPR, and Kip got the duplicate of that one in the cracked bone glaze. That's one of the oil slicks, and the cracked bone.
He's lucky he got that one. He's lucky he got that one because I was going to buy them both.
I'm sorry, I was doubling over you.
No, I just said that Kip was lucky he got that one because I was actually going to buy them both.
Yeah, well, the cracked bone glaze is the one that always comes out the same in its coloration, but the cracking in the glazes is always different. So no two are identical. But the cracked bone glaze is one that it always looks like cracked bone. It always has that patina to it. And I'm going to be working on different glazes over this next year. Hopefully at IPCPR next year I'll have particular colors, purples and pinks and that kind of stuff that I'll be able to bring out. But glaze development is not an inexpensive thing, and all the glazes are all handmade. I make them myself. So it's not something you just buy off the shelf and go do it.
Speaking of buying them, how can people get a hold of you to order ashtrays?
Well, they can email me at rogueashtray, that's Rogue Ashtray Single, at gmail.com. The website is coming right now. It's just a one-page holder page. There's not much to it. It's just informational. It's rogueashtrays.com. And I'm working on getting that developed so people can actually see more pictures of what's going on. And I'll have stock pieces like your top hat skull piece. That's going to be a stock piece that will be available, and I will keep them in stock once I handle all these IPCPR orders that I've got to deal with.
That's a good problem. That's a good problem.
Yeah, it's a good problem. I mean, I didn't know what to expect going into it. I actually had somebody that asked me to order 500, and I told them no. I just flat out said, I'm sorry, I can't do that for you. If you want 100 a month, that's fine, but I can't give you 500 in one order. I'm one guy, I'm just not there. And
what about, can people get their own logo put in the center of this? Can they get their own custom design if they want it?
Yeah, absolutely. There's two sides of it, obviously. There's retail and there's wholesale. Retail is the general cigar guy consumer that wants to call me up and get one ashtray made. For a one-off individual piece, you want to give a gift to somebody, and you want something special in it. And no, I can't do any football teams. I can't do any of that kind of stuff because if it's a copyrighted logo, I will not touch it with a 10-foot pole. I don't need to be sued. But if you wanted a individual one-off piece, it's $100 because there's a lot of setup fees and setup things that have to go into it to have it made. If you wanted 10 of something, that's not a problem. We can talk about wholesale order for that. Like if you have a club and you want to get all your guys in your club custom-made ashtrays, it's not a problem. We can do that. I won't go into wholesale numbers. You guys can give me a call. The minimum order for wholesale is 6, and there's a setup fee that's nominal for that. So, you know, the other thing is there's going to be stock pieces. There will be certain pieces that'll be on the website. You can just pick it and go, yeah, I want that one, and eventually you'll be able to click a button and run your credit card through, and it'll get shipped to you. I also got Pete Johnson. Can I go into that part of the story?
Yeah, that's where I was going to go next. Was how did you get to IPCPR?
Yeah, well, I made an ashtray one night. I was bored. I was sitting there, and I had clay in front of me that was pull-offs. It was just pieces from trimmings, and so I just had raw clay sitting there. And I decided to do something fun, so I started making an old-school coffin, diamond-shaped coffin like the old one. And then I thought, okay, he needs to have a skeleton sitting inside this coffin. So I started sculpting this skeleton because I do sculpture work. I don't just make ashtrays, but I do sculpture as well. So I made this little skeleton, and then I said, oh, he needs a cigar in his mouth. So I put a cigar in his mouth, and that sat for about 3 weeks, and then I fired it in what's called the bisque firing, which gets it prepared for the final glazing. And in the glazing process, I actually put 6 different glazes on this piece, and it came out looking so cool. It has like a aluminum chrome look inside, like where the coffin velvet would be, and the coffin was the cracked bone glaze, and the cigar had one glaze on the side of the cigar, and then the ash actually looks like ashes because I used a metallic ash sort of colored glaze. Anyways, it came out looking really cool. I threw it up on Facebook. And somebody ended up showing that to Pete Johnson. I didn't even have it for sale. I made it for myself. And somebody showed it to Pete Johnson, and Pete Johnson called me up, and he says, Scott, I got to have that ashtray. What's it going to take? And I'm like, I don't really want to get rid of the ashtray. But it's Pete Johnson calling me, and, of course it goes along with his Monster series very well because it matches the boxes on the Wolfman and that kind of stuff. And I had just been accepted as a CRA ambassador, and living on disability from the VA with a wife and 2 kids, there's just no extra money lying around, a lot of people in the cigar community have been good to me and keeping me in cigars for the past year, and I buy some bundles here and there, but, really no extra money to just throw around, and the ambassadorship fee is not small. So I told Pete, I said, look, man, I said, you pay my ambassadorship fee and you can have the ashtray. And of course, Pete, being a huge proponent of the CRA, was down for that 100%. If he could get another ambassador on board that was passionate, he was excited about it. So, I assume he just called CRA and told them to make me an ambassador and never pass any money because he's written so many checks already. But, nonetheless, I got my ambassadorship and I was happy about that. And, so a couple of months later, Pete calls me up and he says, hey, man, he says, I've seen more of your ashtrays showing up online. He said, are you going to IPCPR? And I just kind of was like, Pete, there's no way. I can't afford to do that. I can't afford a booth. It's just too expensive. He said, well, if I gave you the booth space, could you get yourself there? I said, man, if I can have a booth space at IPCPR, I said, if I have to hitchhike and sleep under the table at the show, I said, I'll get myself there one way or another. And so that's kind of how it ended up working out. I had a couple of guys locally that helped me out to get my plane ticket, my hotel room, and Pete gave me literally a table turned sideways at the edge of his booth. I was right next to the Guayabera lady, and I was in the Tatuaje booth, and, you guys and Kip and a bunch of other people that just started meeting me at the show seemed to fall in love with my ashtrays, and even though I was locked down to the booth and couldn't go anywhere, people were going off and telling other people and bringing them back to the booth because they basically were saying, dude, I can't explain it, you just got to come see it. And really that's what it comes down to. The ashtrays, unless you see them, you know, you just tell somebody there's a really cool ashtray, and they're like, okay, it's an ashtray. Until you see them, and then there's something totally different. You know, it's beyond just what a normal ashtray is.
Well, you couldn't have got any better storefront for your launch. That's just an amazing story.
Well, and then while we're at the show, Pete, he's, you know, doing his thing, selling his cigars and whatever. And I had made Tatuaje ashtrays, you know, just for show, for him and just for fun. You know, he asked if I could make a few, and so I said sure. Well, of course, inevitably, everybody keeps asking to order the Tatuaje ashtrays, and I said, you know, I don't have the rights to Tatuaje. I can't do that. And finally, one guy just said, would you just go ask Pete for the rights? He brought you here. Don't you think he could give you the rights to do it? And I hadn't even thought about it. I'm like, you know, actually, let me go ask him. And as I'm walking across the booth to go talk to him, I got an idea in my head. And so I went to Pete, and I said, hey, Pete, I said, I got all these guys asking for Tatuaje ashtrays. I said, how about, you know, I bump up the price of my normal ashtrays because it's a branded ashtray, and then we give the difference to CRA from your company and my company. And he just looked at me and goes, you're a genius. That's fantastic. Done. We'll do 2 designs, and we'll give the money to CRA. And so I got the rights to 2 different ashtrays that I'm going to be producing, and it's going to, every single one that we sell, we'll take that extra money from the sale, and at the end of the year, Pete and I and our companies will be donating money to the CRA.
Wow.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
Great story.
Well, you know, Pete wants to find any way he can to fund the CRA. And if it's something he doesn't have to write a check for, but it uses his business to raise more money for it, you know, and it helps me out, he's all for it. You know, it's getting everybody in the loop together, and the CRA benefits from all of it anyway. So,
well, I gotta tell you, I've already seen several people in the chat room saying they want the ashtrays. Smoking Soldier, who's here on Google Plus with us tonight, he has his own personal logo that he wants to put on an ashtray, so I think you'll probably be hearing from a few more people to queue up into the line waiting for their... I'm so glad I got mine at the show. I won't have to wait now.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Everybody has to understand that I am a one-man show right now, and there is time involved in the setup and all that kind of stuff, and you know, I'm trying to deal with over 100 pieces ordered at the show and get ready for that big run. And, you know, be patient with me, you know. I mean, it is art, and it does take time. This isn't stuff that all just goes in an oven and comes out. Literally, from start to finish, my hands are on it constantly. In the final firing process, I'm actually looking inside the kiln and running a gas valve and watching it until it gets to a certain point that I see the glaze do a certain thing, and as soon as I see it do that, I got to shut it off and then pull it out, and we're talking about, you know, 1,800 degrees, and I'm pulling these things out with tongs and putting them into trash cans with newspaper, and they smoke and do different crazy things, and so it's a lot of labor involved, and that's why I can't just say, oh yeah, you know, I can get you 20 of them in 2 weeks. It doesn't work that way. So as long as people are patient with me and they understand that email is my friend, and I can communicate that way and remember stuff, you know, I'm happy to work with everyone. I just, you know, it's going to take some time to build it all, and I got to make some money before I can hire anybody to come in and help me. So, you know, hopefully by IPCPR next year, I'll have a lot of stock pieces ready to go, and things will be more fluid and bigger. And thank God for my parents, though. You know, I came from a background where they went to trade shows whenever I was a kid, and I used to go to the trade shows with them, and they had electronics manufacturing company, a small company, and you know, if it wasn't for learning all that stuff young, I wouldn't be doing this now, you know.
Well, I think it's Scott. This is Craig Schneider. Sorry, I've been kind of quiet listening here for a bit. I think it's pretty unique for me to kind of follow IPCPR, and this year for the first time in as long as I can remember, since I've been going in 2005, the unique thing that that I've kind of seen as a takeaway from the show was anything but a cigar. And it just so happens that this year it was your ashtrays. That to me, just from I didn't make it to the show this year, but I certainly did follow up on it afterwards. It was unique for me to see that one of the big items people left talking about was not something that they were going to smoke and sell at their shop as a cigar. It was something that they really wanted to have at their house and to display in their shop and sell. So that was pretty cool. It was unique to experience that from an outsider's perspective.
Well, and I appreciate hearing that. You know, it's weird for me. You know, I'm just a dude in Grants Pass, Oregon. You know, like I said, I have fun making this stuff. I put my heart and soul into it, and really try and produce something that people enjoy. Because this isn't something that gets thrown away. It's not something that gets smoked, gets tossed. And the cool part about that is if you want to give a gift to your best friend, or if you're a shop owner and you want to give a gift to your best customer, whatever, this is not a bottle of liquor that's going to get consumed in a night and thrown away. This is something that they're going to see over and over and over again with either a logo or a design or whatever. And, you know, most shops can't afford what companies want. They want you to order 300 to 500 ashtrays minimum for you to have your own custom logo on stuff. That's why I set my minimum down at 6, because I want the small shops to be able to order from me and order from me repetitively. You know, I mean, I can't afford to go out and buy 300 ashtrays. You know, that would be ridiculous. And ultimately, I want to have my own cigar shop too. So I wanted to do something that would help the industry, not something that was just another thing. You know, and hopefully inspire other people to get off their butts and do stuff too, because, you know, with all my issues and problems and everything else, I could just as easily sit at home and be in pain and not go out and do anything, but I chose to get up and start a business, and that's something that a lot of people don't do, but hopefully they'll get inspired and they will.
Well, I'll tell you what, Scott,
this far, it's pretty amazing.
I'm inspired, and I'm sure most of our listeners are too. It's a fantastic story, and I wish you the very best of luck, and I'm sure you will be very successful. Just an incredible business.
The other thing is if people are on Facebook, there is a Rogue Ashtrays Facebook page, and they can get on there, and I'll be posting up pictures of new pieces and, you know, trying to give them connection, because while I am personally on Facebook, it'll get really cluttered really fast, and I like to keep it towards the business side. You know, I don't mind individuals adding me and whatnot, but you know, if people just want to see what's going on with what I'm making and what's upcoming, anecdotally, one of the cigar companies that I was, not cigar companies, but cigar shops, had shown a picture of a box of cigars they were giving to Steven Tyler of Aerosmith. And I saw the logo that was on there, and it's like an S with a T through it, and like an I with eyelid, you know, and eyelashes, like a regular eyeball. And I was like, oh, that's a cool logo. And they're like, yeah, that's Steven Tyler's logo. I was like, oh, man, I'd love to put that on an ashtray. And the guy says, oh, yeah, I got him on the phone right now. Oh, okay, well, tell him if he wants a free ashtray, as long as I can send him a personalized letter along with it. I said, I'll make him an ashtray with the logo on there. And the guy says, hold on a second. And he messages me back. He says, done. So get to make an ashtray for Steven Tyler. I mean, that's, you know, kind of just a cool little thing. Maybe he'll give me the permission to use his name on the website and say Steven Tyler has an ashtray. Who knows? But
well,
you know,
as Dale said, it's a heartwarming story, but it's a very inspiring story as well. And we got to wish you all the best of luck, because the work you do is very artistic. I love the looks of it. It sounds like I'm going to have to get in line if I want to get any more, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, the thing I keep telling everybody is those come with credit cards first. Get in line first, you know.
I love it.
And that's just the way I have to do it, you know. I mean, I could have somebody come in, you know, after 20 people put down a credit card and say, well, I want to order 100, and I'm going to tell them, well, you're behind all the rest of these guys. I don't care how much money you spend. It's, you know, when you put your order in. You know, I've got the orders that I took at IPCPR are numbered, you know, and the first guy is the first one that gets shipped. So, you know, I mean, it's only fair. Can't do it any other way, you know. If somebody wants to pay for a rush, now that might be a different story. This is capitalism after all.
Money speaks. You're right. Well, thank you for being with us tonight, Scott. I know it was a little bit of a trial and error to get you on. I appreciate you sticking with it till we could make it work, and it's just wonderful to have you on. So I'm wishing you all the luck.
Well, thank you for having me. You know, if it wasn't for God putting everything in my life at the exact time that I needed it and not when I wanted it, I wouldn't be here right now talking to you guys, because he has lined every single thing up along the way to get me where I'm at. You know, God's an awesome God, and he's put me here, and I'm just doing my thing. So if people like it, great. If I can inspire others with it, good. You know, hopefully other people that are disabled vets and whatnot see this and decide to do something for themselves and get up and go for it.
Well, that's great. So thanks for being with us. What are you smoking there real quick? I saw you had a cigar in your hand.
Oh, yeah. It's the Carlos Terrano Master series. It's the Habano Maduro Master.
Very nice.
It was one of the ones that was handed to me at the show, and it went out, and my lighter's out of gas.
Well, we'll let you go so you can get that relit then.
Thanks a whole lot for being with us, Scott. It's just been a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and hopefully next time we can have a better background and not be so hazy on here.
I'm sure we will. Everything gets better with time. So
that's right.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, Scott. Take care.
Thank you.
Well, guys, we are still smoking. Now, it's very fortunate that the Cigar of the Week brought to us by Tranquilo CIgars is indeed this Panacea 760, because we still have some of it left to smoke.
Yeah, I've still got at least half of it, and we've been smoking on this for an hour now, right?
Yeah. So, Dale, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm digging on it. As we talked about earlier with Ron, I've liked the red. I like all of Panacea cigars, but I think the red has always been my favorite blend. What I get out of this one, and Ron had mentioned it earlier, and I wanted to be careful not to have him taint my opinion, but he's right. I think in this size, it kind of mellows and smooths out the cigar a little bit. I'm still not a fan, as you know, of the large ring gauge, but the cigar is a magnificent cigar. It tastes great. I'm getting a lot of hazelnut flavors now right here in the middle. It's got some oakiness to it that I really love, and I've got some spice, and it's that kind of exotic spice, but it's not very intense. It changes and develops differently with each puff, and through the retrohale it's always different too. But that it's kind of nutmeg, cinnamony, kind of those exotic spices, baking spices as Craig calls them.
Yep.
Just play on the sides of my palate, and I'm really enjoying it. I've paired mine tonight with a what am I drinking tonight? An Aberlour Scotch, and I've been wishing after we talked to Ron that I'd opened up a Bordeaux to go with it. I think this would go really good with about a 2000 Bordeaux.
How about you, Craig? What do you got to say about the Panacea 760?
Well, I definitely will hit up the fact that it's got like that good, fatty, oily, nutty flavor. Dale, if you're getting hazelnuts out of it, I don't think I don't think I have a specific nut to go with it, but I definitely get something that reminds me of that. Absolutely also get that exotic sweet spice out of this. It's not to me as cinnamon nutmeggy. It's maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less sweet spice, something like a clove or I don't know, maybe a fresh nutmeg, something that's got that sharpness to it, but it's it's not as sweet as just, you buy powdered nutmeg, let's say. Really kind of a predominant flavor without being overpowering at all. It you know it's there, but you kind of have to, I don't know, it doesn't smack you across the face with it, let's say. Let's put it that way. I'd definitely call this cigar mild. I mean, I probably have 4 inches left, and I haven't, well, mild in the nicotine sense. I haven't once kind of had the notation that that it had nicotine to it, or that it had nicotine in it. I don't know if you've noticed that, or if maybe I've just been smoking a lot of cigars, and so I've got more of a tolerance than normal, or what.
No,
But
I agree with you. I think from a flavor intensity point of view, it's full. From the body of the smoke, I call it medium bodied, and from the nicotine strength point of view, I agree it's a mild cigar. I think it's really a perfect combination.
yeah, I really think so. I'm enjoying now my second glass of Zaya rum tonight, and that is an excellent pair for this. It kind of the natural caramely sweetness that's in that Zaya, and the vanilla that it picks up from the barrels, I think, really kind of pairs well with the exotic spice of the Panacea, and really, we were talking about pairing earlier. I think it's a great pair with it. It enhances both the drink and the smoke.
Do we have to worry about when you get your third glass of rum?
I don't know. I have less than half of the second one left, so you never know.
Well, tell you what, let's take on a couple of audience questions that we got this week via email, because, the questions are what get you entered into our monthly drawing for a free polio cutter, so we'd love to get your questions. And the first one we got was, I cut his name off. I don't know who it was from. But he was asking if I think it was Don Hubble. I can't remember. He was here at the Herf. He said Barry Stein gave us a Leon Jimenez Corona at the Herf that he had the wrong band on. Shh, don't tell anybody. He says he just smoked his and thought it was a really good cigar, and he's wondering if we know what this cigar actually was. And what this cigar actually was a Leon Jimenez
Ferdinand
Family
Leon.
Reserve line from the La Aurora factory. I'm sorry?
Wasn't it the Ferdinand de Leon or Ferdinand Leon?
Yep. Ferdinand Leon, part of the
That's
Family
what I thought
Reserve.
it was, yeah.
Yep.
Excuse me, guys, but I see in the chat room that Jeff Curtis said that was him that asked the question.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Jeff. I'm sorry. Usually I put the name right here on my screen, and for some reason I didn't do it this time. Probably because I knew you'd be with us. That's why. And we also have a question. This one came from, I got to come back up, from Rex Mercer. And he's heard us mention on the show that there are some good machine-made cigars out there, and he was wondering what those might be and what your thoughts are on them. He says, "Forgive me if you talked about this on a previous show. I missed it. You didn't miss it. We
just hadn't got to it
very
yet."
Conveniently said they were good ones and never said what they were."
I love it. Well, Ron. Now here I'm calling you Ron, and I meant Bob. Have you found any that you think are a good machine-made cigar? I've got a couple I'd probably mention, but
well, the one I can think of is one from J.C. Newman. I believe it's called the Prince, and it's made up of cuttings from Fuente cigars, from a variety of Fuente cigars. So it has a pretty good family
good tobacco
line
in it. Yeah.
Well, what did you
absolutely.
come up with?
Well, I'm kind of a fan, and I don't know, Craig may disagree with me on whether some of these are good cigars or not. I'm kind of a fan of the Jose Piedra cigars. Now, these are cigars that come out of Cuba, so they aren't readily available in the U.S., but in the rest of the world they are. The smaller sizes in that line are all machine-made. I think there's about 6 sizes that are machine-made. And they're relatively inexpensive, and they're made with pretty fair tobacco. And I think for 30-minute smoke, something like that little Cazadores is a pretty good cigar. I enjoy them. It's not something I would smoke after dinner. Not something I would want to have for a celebratory type cigar. But it's a good enough cigar that every day after lunch I could smoke one of those. So that's one I like.
Well, I tell you, for me, I used to be a massive fan of those Jose Piedras, but I had enough bundles of them to believe that there was absolutely no blending to them. I am 100% convinced that all they are is scrap tobacco that goes in. So sometimes you can get some absolutely stellar cigars, and sometimes you get the dregs that are left over on the floor.
That could be the case. I've always had good luck with them, but I can see how that would be a way that Cuba Tobacco would use up some tobaccos.
Yeah. I think, quite frankly, I've started. Well, I guess I should say I've stopped. I've stopped smoking machine-made cigars and just made the effort to just buy very small handmade cigars. I think that you can generally find more consistent, better small handmade cigars than you can your average machine-made, and they can be had for a very similar price, and the experience is better in my opinion. And so I know it's getting away from the tone of the question, but some of those great little small cigars, you can buy tinned cigars from Arturo Fuente, which I think are pretty reasonable at about $1.50 a piece. There's tinned offerings from a lot of other manufacturers as well. And then just go out and even try to find some Tres Petit Coronas, 4x40s. You can smoke through those in 20-25 minutes, the same amount of time that a medium-sized short filler or machine-made cigar would last you as well. And you're not gonna blow your whole wallet on that. It really can provide a better experience. Maybe think outside the box and go for some of those.
Yeah.
Well, Dale and I've had some reasonably good cigars from Topper that are machine made. Now they've come out with a new handmade cigar this year, the Rosedale, but they've traditionally done machine made cigars, and some of those are really quite smokable.
Yeah, that was on my list, as a matter of fact. I left my list with all the names out in the other room, but there's 2 or 3 of the Topper line that I think are pretty decent cigar. Once again, they're in the $1.50, $2 range, and those are all machine made. The other one I guess I kind of like, and maybe not many people smoke these much anymore, but Guantanamera is a machine made blend, once again out of Cuba. Those I don't find to be as consistent as I've had with the Jose Piedra, although Craig's experience may prove that they're pretty much similar. I don't know. But those are the other ones I had on my list.
Well, yeah, when I talk to manufacturers a lot of times about short filler cigars, which kind of leans towards the whole machine-made thing as well. A lot of times, I got to be careful how I say this because I don't want people to get the wrong impression. It's not 100% of the time, but short filler cigars a lot of the times are, just as you guys said, made from the cuttings from other cigars, and that's the case with the J.C. Newman product, and a new one or two that we have coming out from, actually a new one that we have coming out from one of our favorite manufacturers, that Elogio has a new short filler cigar coming out. It's going to be a bundled product, and it's made from the cuttings from their 2 popular brands, the LSV and the Habano. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, and they admit it right up front, that because it's made from the cuttings from those, there's no blending involved. So they can vary with the percentage of what's in there from cigar to cigar and bundle to bundle. It's just what they take off the tables, not off the floor so much, but off the tables. Take the cuttings off the tables. So
that's becoming actually a popular trend in the industry right now. Drew Estate Cigars and their Liga Privada line. This year they came out with the Papas Fritas, which translates to French fries. And literally what they're doing is they are taking the end cuts whenever they cut the end off the cigar and turning those back around into short filler cigars. And yeah, you're not going to get that blend complexity that changes as you go through the cigar, but you're still going to pick up those flavors that you enjoy out of the premium line, and at a cost-effective option that more people can afford. And the nice thing about what they're doing is they're specifically taking just that particular line, the Liga Privada line, and putting it into that cigar. So you're not getting a blend of lines, you're getting a blend from a line. And, Brickhouse is one that's a lot of short filler. It's a mixed filler cigar, but you're getting flavors from one of their other more popular lines, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it makes it more cost-effective for those of us that want to smoke a lot of cigars and can't afford, the best every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's certainly an issue of cost and a way to make the economics go better.
And it's recycling.
Yeah. It's eco-friendly.
The ultimate recycling.
That's right.
We know your audience.
Well, we got another question here. This one's from Dooley. who's going to be down here in Florida in a week or so. I guess I got to remember the dates on that. He has a question. How is the wrapper applied to double-wrapped barber pole cigars? He says he's had a couple and wasn't very impressed with the burn or flavor, but he's guessing they're more of a novelty more than anything. But on each, the wrapper was beautifully done. Is it a special process or just a modification of the standard wrapper application? So, Dale, Craig, either of you know anything about this?
This is a Craig Snyder question.
You know, I've been thinking about this all afternoon since I read these notes today. I'm fairly certain that what it is you lie both your wrapper leaves down on the table, and you essentially just, if you stack them perfectly on top of each other, you essentially just stagger them about an inch or so, and then you roll the cigar as if that's one wrapper leaf. Yep. What you'll end up seeing at that point is that continuous variation that you overlapped these two wrappers around the entire width of the cigar, the typical three facings that wrapper joint has on a cigar. So not too much to it, and you can vary that length if you just want to make it kind of a mascara line, or if you want to do it 50-50. So
I can actually answer this with a little bit more in depth because I've talked to quite a few different rollers about it. It depends on the manufacturer. There's actually a couple of companies that do a triple kappa, and what they're doing is, just like you said, they're layering three different leaves and rolling them at an angle, like they do, and they get that triple look or the double barber pole. But then there's also some companies that are taking their already made cigar, and in the final stage, they're taking a strip and they are rolling it over the top, because I saw it done down in California on my trip. There was a guy that was sitting there, and he was taking their already rolled cigars, and then he was applying a barber pole wrap to it for aesthetics. So it really depends on the manufacturer of the cigar and whether they're doing it just for a sales aesthetics gimmick, or whether they're trying to produce something. And if you smoke the two different types, they smoke completely differently. I've had one where it was the exterior applied, and it didn't burn well. The thing curled back, and it was okay. It didn't change the taste at all. But I've also had the triple kappa at IPCPR, and forgive me, I can't remember the name of the company that made it, but it had a Habano, a Connecticut, and a Maduro leaf in the wrapper. And it had some dimensions that came through it that you wouldn't get on any other cigar, because the complexities that are in the Maduro and the Habano laid on top of that greener, more mellow creaminess of the Connecticut wrapper, but they blended together really well, and it was really a different kind of a smoke. So it can go anywhere from artisan to novelty. It just depends on the manufacturer.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
There you go. There's your answer, Doug Dooley. We've got another question. This one's from Vashon. He says he loves listening to the show. I always answer these. These are emails I always answer. He only found out about a month ago, and he's been hooked ever since. So he's only heard the last 20 shows. So that's why he still likes us. He hasn't heard any of those first 100 or 300.
Thank goodness, yeah.
He says he's only been smoking for 8 months, and he smokes a cigar a day, and they are all from different brands. He's in Georgia, and they have pretty much the same brands like CAO, Padron, Perdomo, and the like. But he's noticed that we smoke sticks that are not your normal traditional brands. And although he has the mobile Stogie app, besides that, how do you... but besides that, do you have another source for either online or local that I can order the sticks you guys talk about? And I don't know what part of Georgia you're in. If you're in the Atlanta area, there's several good shops up there. Brickhead or
Buckhead.
Buckhead, thank you.
Buckhead Cigars, yeah. Mike runs that.
Yeah, and there's another one, the...
Uh-oh, Bob's
What?
stuck.
Is it the Blue Havana 2?
Yeah, Blue Havana 2 has some good stuff in it. And
Well done, executive producer.
Thank you.
she's on the ball tonight. I thought she might have been sleeping over there because I wasn't getting shot too much lately.
I'm listening.
And so, do you have any favorites where you like to get special stuff, Dale or Craig?
Oh, I don't know. Like probably like most of you guys, I shop all over the place. So, wow, this really kind of caught me off guard because I guess I was thinking more that his question might apply to the bigger online retailers, but I'd really rather point him to something. So I mean, there's one that's a good friend of the show, Charmed Leaf. That's a great place to order, particularly boutique cigars from. And I guess I would really suggest if you do want to try a lot of the cigars we smoke that may not be your normal everyday ones you hear about all the time, stick with the online retailers that carry the boutique cigars. They're the ones that carry all these magnificent creations we get to try all the time.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll go a different direction. Instead of saying the online retailers who have a lot of the boutique cigars, I'll go closer to home right for Bob. Tranquilo CIgars has become my source, my regular source now for boutique cigars that I'm looking for that you're not going to find at your average everyday corner shop. Tranquilo really comes in. That's not a paid endorsement from me or anything. It's just, quite frankly, it's a heck of a source that I wish more people would be able to realize.
Yeah, and he does ship, and he ships to APOs, military guys, and has a wonderful online presence as well. So, wow, I don't know where we're picking that up from. But.
It sounds like somebody's got a rooster.
The other thing I was going to suggest as well, if you're looking for different choices, is get to know people on Facebook and network on there, because there's a lot of shops out there that are spread all over the country that are on Facebook that carry different lines that shops in different regions don't have, and you can always hook up with shop owners on there and ask them what they've got. There's a lot of people that are networking through Facebook and Google Plus now, and check out and see who you got. I know one of the people that takes care of me personally that has a lot of boutique brands. Do you guys know about Podman cigars?
Oh yeah, Tim Podwicka. Yeah. He used to run my favorite store down here, my regular B&M.
Yeah, and he's got a great online presence now, and he's one of the few guys that you can actually get like Liga Privada and Tatuaje and stuff from. But he's not an online superstore. He's a guy, and that's what I like about what he does.
Yeah. Another one I guess I'd be better make sure I mention is Dan up at New Havana Cigars. That's a great place to get a lot of these boutique cigars. He carries full selection of Illusion and Tatuaje, plus all the newer ones that have come along recently in the same vein. He's a great dealer, and he will bend over backwards to ship you what you want as soon as he can.
Yeah, he does a good job. Now, this next question, I have no idea how to answer this question. This one comes from Warren Kearney, who's up in the upper northwest quadrant of the corner up there. And he says, why do some of my good-tasting cigars change when I get into my car? He says, they get nasty, but they're fine at home. Dale, Craig, any idea on that? That one totally blew me away because I smoke so much in the car, and Liz smokes in the car with me, and I've never noticed a change between smoking in the car versus smoking at home, except maybe in the way I smoke the cigars, the only thing I can think of.
Well, first of all,
I would suggest that he removes the dead body from the trunk, and that might take the off flavor away.
That might help. Yeah, well, you might want to clean your car out, Warren. Maybe that's the problem.
Are you sure Warren's from the Northeast? I think he's actually
Northwest.
Northwest. I thought Warren was actually local to that shop I just mentioned, Burning Leaf, here in Plainfield. But
I think he's from the great state of Washington.
Well, perhaps there's another Warren that goes by the handle Templar. But either way, the only logical explanation I can come up with about this would be airflow causing a slightly different burn, or perhaps if you're the type of person who doesn't rotate a cigar as you smoke, half your cigar typically tends to go out when you're smoking it because you're only getting that blow-by from the window. That could certainly cause flavor changes, but boy, you'd have to be an awful consistent smoker for that to happen every single time.
Yeah, I'm stumped by the question. I've never had a situation that I can recall where any cigar tastes one way in the house and tastes different in the car. So I guess I don't have much to offer.
I would suggest he tries a different car and see if it makes a difference.
I don't know. That one totally got me stumped. I'll tell you. I really don't know what to think of that one. So anyway, hey, we need to let everybody know that this portion of Dog Watch Cigar Radio is brought to you by Black Dog Coffee. And, of course, Black Dog Coffee is the way we start our day here at Dog Watch Cigar Radio. I know Dale starts his day. And we turned Craig into a regular coffee drinker by getting him hooked on a little bit of Black Dog Coffee as well. And everybody that came to the HERF went away with a little packet of Black Dog Coffee. So I hope they're all ordering in great volumes from blackdogcoffee.net.
If I can break in right now, I would love to give away a box of Commonwealth cedar spills to someone in the chat room. If
that sounds great.
That's good timing right now.
Let's do that.
All right, I'm going to ask the question and see who's the first with the correct answer, and they'll win this great box. And Commonwealth Cedar Spills website, where you can go and purchase these bundles of cedar spills, is shop.cedarspills.com. And my question tonight is, on the website, they have an option where you can choose maybe out of 20 different ones for special occasions. So you can order kind of a general special occasion. My question is, give me 2 of those special occasions for which you can order a cedar spill.
Oh, geez.
Okay, and I'll watch the chat room, and you guys continue the show, and I'll let you know when I have a winner.
Okay. I think you're going to have a winner pretty darn quick because I just saw a couple of them go by.
Yeah.
These guys are so quick on the keyboard.
Yes, I do. Let's see who's the first.
That's because it's free.
Exactly.
It looks like Smoking Soldier had the first. Childbirth and Wedding.
Is it convenient that he's the youngest one who probably has grown up on a computer? That's why he got in fast enough.
I don't know. He was ready, I'll tell you. And it's very interesting because they've got one that's handcuffed. So maybe if you know someone that just got sent to jail, you can send that to him.
Or just got out of jail.
A broken heart.
Or a police officer.
Yeah, police. Okay, that's a better twist to it, I think. So I mean, there's quite a Happy New Year, Father's Day, a whole list of them that you can order bundles of to have. There's even one for General Cigar HERF.
Yeah, our cigar guys don't go to jail, so we'll just go with the cops.
True. All right, Smoking Soldier, that's a good win for you.
Okay, well now it's time for What Else You've Been Smoking. And to kick off this segment, I'm going to switch my camera here over to a different view because I have a little video that Liz and I did that is going to it's just a short segment of what we did for What Else, and we're going to have the full video coming out very soon up on the website. So here we go.
Cigar Radio. This is a special segment of What Else We've Been Smoking. Here with executive producer Liz. You know me. So we're going to smoke. What are we going to smoke today?
We're going to smoke Jameson Resolution.
Now this is a new cigar from Jameson Cigars. Just came out at IPCPR. The MSRP is about $7.50. It comes from the Dominican Republic, of course, and
dryer.
Okay, well, it exactly the way I'd planned. Maybe it wasn't too bad. So here we are, and I want to get, we're going to put that full video up on the website here this week. So everybody can tell me if they did or didn't like the way it worked. I couldn't really tell from my end how well it worked. Looked like the audio was a little bit out of sync from the rest of it. So Dale, what else have you been smoking this week? I think you're muted, Dale.
Thank you. I was. I don't know how that happened. I had a whole bunch of good cigars this week, but since Craig's on the show, I want to talk about one that he gave me at the Herf a few weeks ago. I smoked the Illusion Epernay Le Grand. He knows that's a cigar I really enjoy, and he told me that he thought that one tasted an awfully lot like the Cigar Journal version that came out. What was that, Craig? 3 years ago now? 2 years ago?
Yeah, I'd say probably 3 years ago, I believe, in New Orleans.
So I smoked both of them. I enjoyed both of them, and I have to agree, I think they're pretty close. I find that the Grand Corona probably has a little more of the, what I call the earthy flavors, especially a lot of oak flavor to it. The floral aromas in it were very nice, and I really like the way the room aroma goes with that cigar. I think the Cigar Journal version was just a little bit, perhaps smoother, maybe a little more sophisticated. I don't know how else to put it, but the flavors were very similar. I enjoyed them both very much, and I wanted to thank you personally for passing those both along to me. Outstanding cigars, both.
Oh, hell, it's my pleasure. You know that probably my favorite thing to do in this hobby is to be able to share cigars with people, get their opinion, and hear what their review is on something that I've smoked and enjoyed, and hope that it makes their evening, afternoon, whatever it is, a little bit better. So I'm glad to hear that it was a fun experience for you.
It really was, and I've got some very detailed notes that we'll share sometime over adult libation together.
Sounds perfect. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. What have you been smoking lately?
Well, I must admit, I must confess here, after the Dog Watch Herf, I got struck with one hell of a sinus infection from what I can't imagine was anything other than the fact that we just had so many cigars in such an enclosed room. But man, was it worth it! So I've had a number of cigars real recently because I'm feeling great now. But the three cigars that I want to talk about, only one of them is really a high up on my list, and it's just because I remember you mentioning it last time I was on the show, Dale. And it's Perdomo Lot 23. This is a cigar I'm not really that experienced with. I found it to be a pretty nice companion. It had some decent strength to it, but it wasn't overpowering. It just, I lit it up and realized it was there. It let you knew that it was going to participate in whatever it was that you were doing. Sweet and spicy. The cigar had some burn problems, despite an excellent draw and a very thin, delicate wrapper. I thought that was interesting. That doesn't happen too often. I think it had some age on it, though. The shop I had gotten it from was one of those more cigarette tobacco-oriented, and so their humidor really didn't seem like it was frequented very much. But I have to say I'm not too familiar with the blend to know for sure. It wasn't overly complex, but it was flavorful on both sides of the taste spectrum. I've talked about hard and soft, kind of the softer, more delicate flavors, and then the harder, more aggressive flavors. It had flavors on both ends of the spectrum without having a lot of those flavors. It just it had a few of them. It was pretty well balanced, and I enjoyed it. I don't know if I'd go out and buy it again unless I could pick it up for $4 or $5 a cigar on a regular basis, but it was a nice experience. Thought that I'd share that.
Was that the Maduro one?
No, it wasn't. It was the Habano,
okay.
I believe.
I really encourage you to go try the Maduro now in the near future so you can compare them why that one's still fresh in your mind. I'd be curious to hear your perception of the differences, if any, that you pick up.
Are you? I know you're obviously a big Maduro fan, but you prefer that Maduro to the Habano?
I do. I don't know. Every time we get into whether you like this one cigar or this wrapper better than that one, it's always a toss-up because I like them both really well.
Yeah.
I think the Habano brings you more spice, but I think the Maduro gives you a richer, much richer experience all the way around at both ends of the spectrum you were just talking about. So that's what I'm curious to hear if you agree with that or not.
Well, I'll put it on the list.
There you go. I think I'll probably just talk about one more since we're running kind of long tonight, but I really want to talk in a little more depth about the Jaime Garcia Reserva Especial. I had the Toro Maduro. It's a 6x54. I actually had 3 of them this week. Those are a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, and they are fermented to a really nice dark and I must say even color. That wrapper leaf didn't change 1/2 a shade from top to bottom. It was a beautiful leaf. That's all wrapped up over top of Nicaraguan fillers and binders, of course, coming from the My Father Farms, I'm sure. Very dark, earthy flavors, tons of body to this cigar. It is one of the chewiest, thickest, creamiest feeling smokes I've had in a long time. A lot of pepper, a lot of spice, some cane sugar complemented the flavors as well, but it has a really bitter coffee flavor, which sounds like a bad thing, but it's really not. It blends really well, balances good with those spicy flavors and that cane sweetness. And then it's got the cocoa bean also as part of the core flavors. It's just a very dark and, I don't know if it were a movie, I mean, you'd be thinking of Batman. It's just, it's deep and dark like that. Very full-bodied, very full-flavored. Not, surprisingly, not as strong in nicotine as I was expecting. I think it's a very interesting cigar. It's probably not one that, you know, the majority of people would put high on their list just because it's so dark and so different. But I really enjoyed it, and those 3 I've had this week just led me to go want to buy another box. So I think that'll be on my next shopping trip.
Well, I'm nursing just a few singles of those. I've only lit one of them up, so I might have to bite the bullet. I really love those Jaime Garcia, so I've been kind of saving those for a special occasion, but maybe now's the time.
Well, the sun coming up tomorrow is a special occasion. Go for it.
Yeah, but you know as well as Bob does that I seem to accrue way too many cigars that I say, gee, I'm going to save that for a special occasion. So I could smoke one every day for the next year and probably still have special occasion cigars.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to be blessed with.
It is.
So, Craig, what else have you been smoking this week?
Well, I will move it along here. Sorry about that, Bob.
No,
I'll run
that's
into... I would absolutely love to talk about another cigar that I'm a little torn about. I love this smoke, but I'm really good friends with the brand. Well, I'm good friends with the brand owner, and I really don't want my friendship to cloud what I'm about to say because I'm being as objective as I possibly can. This is the Orinoco cigar brand, and the line is the Susan B. Constant. So this is from Kevin Edmiston at Winston's Humidor up in Virginia, and I don't remember the town. Met Kevin on the Dog Watch and Cigar Tourism Expedition Esteli trip back in 2010. We again spent some time together at the next Cigar Tourism trip we went on with you, Dale, in the Dominican Republic last year, and I've seen Kevin all over. He was at the Dog Watch Herf too, and this cigar is a cigar that he has blended and really put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into. Really, really find it to be quite a unique cigar. I love it. I absolutely love it, this cigar. It's bready, it's got a yeasty sweetness, and it's incredibly flavorful without being the slightest bit strong. It's such a perfect experience of what a mild cigar can be. So many people think mild, they think Macanudo or White Label Davidoff. This cigar, to me, blows a $14 White Label Davidoff out of the water with its complexity, with its depth of flavors, and its unique flavors. You do not typically get that bready, yeasty flavor with a modestly priced non-Cuban cigar. You get it in spades, and you're going to love it if you go find this smoke. I highly recommend it. I just can't say enough good about it. Kevin and his business partner Wade hit one out of the park. I absolutely think that.
Well, I admit to being friends with those two guys too, which is not an easy thing to do.
Jeepers!
But this cigar makes it a lot easier, I'll tell you. It's I agree with everything you said about it. It's a wonderful cigar, and I appreciate you disclosing your close alliance with them. I don't think it colors your impression of the cigar at all, because you wouldn't have put it in the show notes if you didn't want to talk about it.
Well, and I'll be completely honest. Kevin's got more than one blend that he's come out with under the Orinoco name, and the other cigar I think is or the other one I'm thinking of, I think is a great smoke. It's just not my preferred profile. Doesn't mean that it's not someone else's. Someone might have this season be constant and say, gee, I just need a little bit more strength in my cigars. And yeah, those flavors are nice, but it's not my preferred dark, deep, sweet flavors that I want. Well, to me, this is one not to miss. I really can't get enough of these flavors.
Well, great. I appreciate. Thank you guys for chiming in there with what else you've been smoking this week. We've got another guy sitting in the chat room. Not in the chat room. He's in the chat room, but he's also on Google Plus with us tonight, and that's Jeff Curtis. And we're going to bring him up here in just a minute because Jeff sent us this week's unbanded cigar, and I didn't put any notes in the show notes about it. I've got a couple of pages here on my iPad that I'm going to talk about, and I see Craig did some good work up there, but I'm not sure who to start with here.
I've got my regular yellow pad full of notes as well here. So, yeah, I think we're all three ready to talk about this one.
So this was Unbanded 1022, provided by Jeff Curtis, who's on Google Plus, and we'll get him up here in a minute after he hears what we think about this cigar. Well, he might not want to come on after he hears what we think about this cigar. I don't know.
Never know.
Depends. This was a square-pressed or box-pressed, about a Churchill size. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Mine measured 7 1/4 by 50, and indeed, I struggled whether to write down box pressed, square pressed, rectangular pressed. I don't know if it really was box pressed, but
it had two flat sides on it. Yeah,
beautiful cigar.
It's very rare to get a true box pressed cigar these days, but square pressed are becoming much more popular again. I found it had a sweet barnyard aroma on the pre-light, and after I lit it, I tried a retro right away, and it was kind of a stinging retrohale, but not overwhelming. The first notes off the cigar were a dry nuttiness, especially in the retrohale. And also, then I started to get, once the cigar got going, I got a coffee and nut flavors, especially from the retrohale. That really emphasized what I was getting on my palate. Great even burn, lots of smoke, and very nice construction. I thought the construction on the cigar was beautiful. Somebody else may call me out on this. I'm not sure. I got coffee and chocolate nuts all the way through this thing. But at the first third, I started getting I got a nice spice right on the edges of my tongue. I don't know what that means, but that's where I got it. It was a very chewy, savory smoke. And then I started to get some citrus spice in the top of my mouth, which gave me a very nice complexity and also a little bit of a sting on the tip of my tongue. The second third, the spice started to recede, but the coffee flavor stayed consistent, and of course, and the chocolate was there too. And the retro started to lose its sting at that point. Very enjoyable. I wrote chocolate espresso. The final third of the cigar, I got a slight astringency on the retrohale. The spice came back on the edges of my tongue, and just real complex layers of flavor. And I'd say it's an excellent smoke. So, Dale, what did you think of this cigar?
Well, I agree with you in a lot of ways on this cigar. I picked up quite a few of the same flavors. Let's see my notes here. First off, a little bit about the construction and the appearance. It had a beautiful reddish-brown wrapper. Matter of fact, I just relit it. I'm smoking the last couple inches of it as we speak here. Beautiful reddish-brown wrapper. The wrapper was very toothy on the example I had and oily. It was just a gorgeous wrapper. The cold draw, to me, tasted a lot like milk chocolate, real mild milk chocolate. The wrapper had a barnyard aroma. I agree with you there. The cigar is very firm, but I did have a soft spot right near the middle. The rest of the cigar was perfectly filled, but there was a soft spot. But I will say, as I smoked through the middle of the cigar, it never affected the burn and never affected the taste. Just one of those that had a soft spot, and luckily it didn't affect how the cigar behaved. First third, my notes were, let's see, tangy with an astringent quality from the start. Good draw, lots of medium-bodied smoke. The ash on it was almost pure white all the way through, and it remains that way even now. I got a lot of flavors of grilled steak, walnuts, that I think is where that astringent quality comes from, that same sort of flavor. And I also picked up that citrus, and I wrote down it tasted like a white grapefruit to me almost. In the middle of the cigar, those outstanding savory flavors continued. Some Italian roast coffee kind of flavors joined in, and also some leather flavors. But the flavors I talked about previously still remained in the cigar. And as I approached the last third, I started picking up a bit of pepper. It kind of rose really strong for about an inch and a quarter, and then it backed off and became real mild at this point. And then the last third also got some nice sweetness, and it kind of changed between a milk chocolatey kind of flavor, and then sometimes it was caramel. Back and forth. I agree, I like this cigar too. It started out a little strange. I wasn't sure I was going to like it, but after a half inch I was really into the cigar, and I still am. So I don't have a guess as to what it is. I don't know that I've ever smoked this cigar. It doesn't have a familiar feel to it, but I'd like to get more familiar with it. It's
well, I think my review has one thing in common with Dale's, and that is that I don't believe I've smoked this cigar before. Boy, I other than the size, I'm curious as to whether or not I smoked the same cigar as you guys. Quite frankly, my experience was dead set opposite of yours, Dale. I started out great, and then it transitioned over to a little bit deeper, less sweet flavors at probably the end of the second third. But I'll actually get into the real review rather than just going off the cuff here. The pre-light aroma of this cigar was absolutely gorgeous. I've never had a cigar that smelled like this before, but it absolutely smelled like smoked sweet paprika. Little bit of caramel sweetness to it as well. It was super unique. I've never smelled it before on a cigar, but it had been kept sealed within a tube since I received it at my house. So perhaps that isolation kind of intensified that aroma. It was very unique. When smoking it the first third and into the second third, the cigar was full of just robust medium flavors, medium strength, and definitely had medium body. While being middle of the road all around, I really did have to say at that point the cigar rose above that description to become a high-end smoke. It was very, very enjoyable. Now, as I mentioned, as the cigar progressed, I found that there were significant changes to a darker, more typical woody flavor than what the initial light brought on for me. Not sure if relighting the cigar contributed to that change or if it was truly from the cigar itself. It did become slightly spicy. I had a little bit of pepper in it, but I really have no country of origin. If I was forced, I'd say that woodiness made me think that there was some of that Jalapa Nicaraguan in there, but I did not feel it was overwhelming. It had overwhelming characteristics from anywhere. I really love when a cigar surprises me and stumps me, and I think that this one definitely has done that. The one other thing of note that I'll say is that I did regularly notice, I'm guessing it was a room aroma because I didn't perceive it on my tongue. I perceived it in my nose. And it was kind of a cheesy smell, similar to when you crack a fresh box of cigars, and it kind of has that vintage or aged tobacco aroma that can kind of be a little fermented, a little cheesy. It had that from time to time. That was very unique, and I couldn't draw any regular comparisons or examples of when I would have experienced that, but I definitely enjoyed it.
That's a very interesting description. I couldn't believe you got a cheesy aroma off of it, but I believe that's what it came to you as. I think that's great. Yeah. So now we're going to bring up Mr. Jeff Curtis, who supplied us with this particular cigar. And what did you think of our random reviews of it, Jeff?
Well, I think I pretty much agree. I really enjoy these myself. I was trying to think. I'm not sure I've seen that many Churchills in a box press either, but I was afraid the unique size might give it away. But it sounds like you guys haven't smoked this too much. This is actually not a cheap cigar, although I got 6 packs of these for $28, and they normally go for $11-12 a piece. Unfortunately, I just checked, and Holtz had the 6-pack deal going all summer, and it looks like they've just ran out of them. This was an Oliva Master Blend 3.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I think they're listed as having a Connecticut broadleaf sun-grown wrapper, Nicaraguan Habano binder, and Nicaraguan Ligero filler, and they don't list any other fillers, and it certainly didn't strike me as over-the-top Ligero, but I really enjoy these when I smoke, and I bought several of the 6-packs when I was able to get 6 for $28.
Man. Well, you caught me. I have smoked the Master Blends 3. Matter of fact, I've got some Robusto size in my humidor right now. I'm getting ready to smoke those here in another couple of weeks. But this does not taste anything like that Robusto size. I've never had the Churchill. I don't know if it's just me or what, but I may break my rule and go smoke one of those later tonight and see how it compares to this size, because this is a great cigar, but I'd have guessed 30 guesses never hit Master Blends.
Boy, I'd have guessed 30 guesses and not even gotten to Oliva.
I don't. Me either. Me either. I'm just darn glad I'm going to be in Tampa next week, and I might have a chance to actually pick some up out there. So,
well,
in that size.
When I think of it, some of the original Serie V Lanceros that I've have had a very similar paprika characteristic to how the cigar smoked, and that's the only other time I've had paprika. I've experienced it in a cigar, so maybe I could stretch and make a connection that way. But I've not smoked any of the Master Blends, no matter what, whether it was the 1, 2, or 3. So I at least have that to fall back on. But this was definitely a good cigar. I've enjoyed the transitions, whether it was just myself or if it was really the cigar. It was good either way.
Yeah, I found it to be quite excellent. And I don't usually get into that first third, second third, last third kind of thing, but with this cigar, it was hard not to.
Yeah, there are definitely transitions, as Craig pointed out. The thing I wish would have stayed with it longer that I really enjoyed was that grapefruity citrus in the first part. And maybe as I get back down near the nub, it'll come up again. I don't know, but I really enjoyed that, and it lasted almost first 3 inches of the cigar, and then it totally went away. But of course, that was replaced with some nice sweetness. So the transitions, I think, to me, are really exciting on this cigar.
What are they on now? Are they on the 3 now, or are they out with 4?
I've not seen a 4 yet.
I'm not a huge Oliva fan, so I don't keep on with it. But at Tranquilo, he had a box of Master Blends, and I didn't even look to see what number they were.
Now, last time, I think you were with us. We were in the Oliva factory. We saw a box of the original ones way up in one of their aging humidors, right?
Yeah, that sounds correct.
Yep. Boy, I was wishing that whole cabinet would have fallen over. I could have stuck one in my pocket. Anyway, thank you, Jeff. Really great cigar, and you stumped me, that's for sure.
Yeah,
thanks a lot, Jim.
I have a glutton of riches tonight between this Panacea and this Oliva. I don't know which one to smoke. For a while, I was smoking both of them. I might go back to doing that again. I bet I got an hour on each of them left.
Well, and I want to say thanks to Jeff, too, for the very wonderful cigar mold that he procured for me out there. I appreciate that very much, Jeff.
Jeff, remember our deal.
Yeah, he's got to keep rubbing that in that he got that, huh? It's only like the 3rd week in a row.
It's right back behind me there by the new hands that I have.
I saw that. Well, speaking of our cigar of the week, our Panacea, I hope we get a chance to get Ron back on the show. I'd like to wrap that up with him before we're done, so just giving you a little heads up, Ron, we may do that.
Well, let's bring him on and talk about it, because we are smoking the Panacea 760 Pecemaker, thanks to Ron over at Panacea Cigars and Tranquilo Cigars here in Melbourne.
Matter of fact, I'm going to relight mine, and I'm going to do a Craig and do a double-fisted thing here.
Because I'm certainly enjoying mine, Ron. And I'm with Dale. I'm a little bit frightened typically of anything this big, a 7x60 cigar. But this one smokes so nice and smooth all the way through. It's really not a chore to smoke it at all.
Well, this has become one of Erica's favorite cigars. She likes a milder, medium-bodied cigar, and yet this one is one of her favorites. And interestingly, we've introduced her daughter to cigar smoking. She's worked in a couple of the festival booths with us. She's 22, and this has become her favorite cigar. And it's interesting watching her to smoke one of these because she's about as big around as the cigar is. But it's the kind of cigar that that's one of the nice things about Panacea as a line, and one of the things from end to end, our line is mild to medium strong, and Dale, as you noted earlier, lots of big flavors without having that big nicotine rush. So one of the things we're getting with that is the fact that we don't get that palate killer that kills the flavors, the complex flavors of the wines. So, in this case, you're getting a really nice medium-bodied cigar that doesn't overpower you. You can smoke it for an hour and a half or 2 hours, if you've got the time to devote to that, and it turns into a wonderful experience. It was a great cigar, for example, at Floyd Fest. I was mentioning this at one of the breaks. Floyd Fest was 50,000 people on the Blue Ridge Parkway for 5 days, listening to 100 bands on 10 different stages. So it was the perfect opportunity for somebody to sit around for a couple of hours and enjoy a really good long cigar, something that wasn't so overpowering that it could keep you from walking through the shops and doing some of the things that you do at Floyd Fest. It's an experience cigar.
Yeah, and I see Zach Anudo in the chat room. He's smoking that cigar along with us tonight. He's enjoying it very much. And I think, Jeff, have you smoked yours yet? I know you got it from the Herf. Have you smoked your Panacea Pecemaker yet?
Yeah, I did. And to reiterate one of the things you guys mentioned is I really like the Panaceas because I'm a little susceptible to nicotine overload, and I never get that from the Panaceas. I don't usually smoke the 60 ring gauges either, but I really got a enjoyable 2 hours out of that one.
So you could almost smoke that on your 700-mile drive home at night.
Yeah, if my wife had let me smoke in the car, I could have smoked 4 or 5 cigars on that drive.
Jeff, as much as I love hearing you, Jeff, can we put Ron Barker and his gold, silky, smooth voice back on? Man, oh man, I think he might need to do the introductions to Dog Watch every week. I think our listenership would double.
Dog Watch, cigar radio listeners.
I think we could probably make that happen. So, Craig, what's your final impressions of the Panacea 760 Pecemaker?
Well, I am right there with Jeff too. I do suffer from nicotine sickness on a more regular basis than a lot of regular cigar smokers, and so I do appreciate that this brings flavor and body to the table, as well as complexity and character, without thinking that it needs to kick your butt and make you stay seated. Enjoy this smoke. I enjoy it so much that what is this? 2 hours plus into it, I am looking forward to another hour, another 45 minutes of relaxing with this smoke, even as the show ends. So that's a good way to wrap it up for me. If I want to have more, no matter what, it's a great description.
Yeah, absolutely. And Craig, one of the things I want to point out that you and I both picked out of this cigar that I think is a really special thing, and I think it's one of the things that makes, maybe Ron can agree or disagree, but I think it's one of the things that makes this cigar pair well with wines, is that oily, nutty flavor. And, to me it tastes a lot like hazelnuts. Other people may pick out a different kind of nut flavor, but that character in this cigar, I think, matches it well, not only with wines. I think it goes with other spirits really well because of that. And because of the nicotine being not at the forefront and all the complexities come up on top of it, you can enjoy it with all kinds of beverages, all kinds of foods even, if you're one of those who likes to puff on a cigar while you eat a little bit. And it won't get in the way of any of that. And as a matter of fact, it probably enhances those other pairings more so than a lot of other cigars. So, I guess in my final wrap-up, I got to say that nuttiness, that oakiness, and that little bit of spice is a really good blend. And in a Dominican cigar, I think it's a treat. I really think it's a magnificent smoke. I see you and I are doing the same thing now. We're alternating puffs off our cigar of the week and our unbanded. They're both great cigars, but they're totally different characteristics, and they actually pair pretty well together.
And all you need is cigars. What a concept!
Yeah. All you need is a nice glass of wine in there, and you've got a triple play going.
That's right.
I'll have to settle for rum. It's the only thing within grabbing distance. So.
Well, it's. I want to thank Ron for being with us tonight. Thank you, Ron, for taking time out to be with us, and of course, I want to thank Scott Hicks from RogueAshtrays.com. Very nice to have him on the show and hear his story. And Jeff Curtis, thank you very much for a wonderful unbanded cigar and for filling us in on that. It's been great.
Very generous cigar. Thank you.
Very generous. And, of course, my two co-hosts, Dale and Craig, I thank you both for being on the show, and my executive producer, who didn't have to shoot me once tonight. So it must have been a good night. I think it was a good show. We'll see.
Yeah, if Bob doesn't get shot, that's got to be a first.
It is. It's a class show.
There's still time, Liz. Just remember.
Hey, coming up next week on the show, we've got the Toro y Leon Habano Claro Exclusivos. And this is another cigar that was part of the first ever Dogwatch Herf down here at Tranquilo. And so I hope those of you that were in attendance there can smoke that along with us next week. And we have a unbanded provided by our Aussie brother, Big Pete, my brother from another kangaroo or another mother or something like that.
And they let you have your own cigar show.
It's scary.
It is scary, isn't it? So we got all that and a lot more coming up next week right here on Dogwatch Cigar Radio.
Absolutely. And folks, we'd love to hear from you. And we had some great questions tonight. I know we've got some Herf lines, I think, stacked up that we haven't had a chance to get on the show yet. We'd love to read your emails or read your questions on the show. All you got to do is send us email to the show at cigarmedia.tv. You can include your audio file. You can include question. You can just rant and rave, whatever you want to do. Give us some mail, and we'll be sure to use it on the show.
Kreger?
Sorry, I'm savoring this Panacea.
falling down on the job there, Craig. Come on, buddy.
Oh, man. Well, boys, thank you very much for letting me participate. I always do love it. I mentioned before the show started today that I've been jazzed about it all week, ready for it, and hope that I was able to contribute, make your nights a little bit better, and everybody who's listening, make them enjoy themselves. And, boys, I didn't make 3 hours, but I made 2 hours and 10 minutes. I hope that's good enough for you.
That's a great length. I like 2 hours and 10 minutes. So.
Excellent.
Hey, I want to ask everybody, please remember, support our sponsors. They're the ones that support us and make the show possible. More importantly, though, I want to thank people like Smoking Soldier and Dooley for their service to our country, and Officer Paul, who's been in the chat room tonight. I think he's gone now, but we want to thank all of the people in the armed forces who serve all around the globe, and of course all the law enforcement, rescue groups, et cetera, that serve here in the U.S. as well. It's your service to our country that just really makes it the greatest country on earth. So we thank you for your service.
Absolutely, and we want to make sure we throw Scott Hicks in there, who served for us in the Army. Hey, good night, everybody. Thanks so much for listening.